But, the great thing about the Festival on the Trails and the Chat Fest is, we're celebrating the fact that this is where the trails divide. But Festival on the Trails is what brings people in Gardner together to work towards a common cause and brings our distinguished citizens back here to First Baptist Church year after year to share some memories and have a little fellowship with the other people that have been in town for a while.
Actually, I was born in Gardner at my grandmother's house. I've been here about 70 years.
Well, my husband and I were married in 1951, and that's when I came to this area.
I was born 11/8/30 in Gardner, Kansas. I live on the same farm that I was born and raised on, the same farm that my father was born and raised on. So it's been the Knabe generation for over 100 years.
I moved out to Gardner in 1953 on 151st.
I've lived here since 1935. I moved to Gardner when I was 7 years old, and there were 350 people in Gardner at that time.
I just like being out in the country instead of being in the city, and that's the reason I moved out here, and I still like it out here.
And I saw a big change outside of 2 years in the military. I spent the whole time here in Gardner.
And I've lived here since 1958. I actually started working here in 1948. I worked for the gas service company, and I read the meters here in 1948. Read them every month after that for the next 19 years.
I moved from Kansas City, Kansas to Gardner in 1965 when I bought the Western Auto Store down on the corner of Elm and Main Street.
Here in 1956, started teaching school. I was just 20 years old. I taught 38 years, retired from teaching, and I'm still working for the school district. And I just finished 57 years with the school district.
We're very proud of our schools, but I always have to smile because I was on the school board 12 years on a job of committees, and I enjoyed every bit of it.
And we hear that from many people that are new in town. It's the school system that has brought them here, as well as just the community itself.
The school system, there were 16 in my class in 1948, and this year I think 320, 30 some graduate, with 350 or 60 in the freshman class coming in.
It's a growing community and it's doing real well, kind of prosperous.
First year I was here, I served on the school board for a 3-year term. Had 3 children, and all 3 of them went through school here and graduated.
I think it's a great town, and I've been involved in a lot of stuff. I spent 20 years on the city council, 6 years on the planning commission before that, 26 years as a volunteer fireman between the rural and the city, and I've seen a lot of changes, some for the better and some not for so good.
It's quite a bit different. The post office was right on Main Street. Everything that you wanted to do was right on Main Street.
It was only 2 or 3 blocks long, and now it's a mile or so, or 2.
Well, it looked about like just the corner of Elm and Main right there, about like it looks now on the outside, but there was a little more activity. Grocery stores. Well, Western Auto come in 2 or 3 years after I got here, and the bank was on the corner. The Downtowner Cafe opened that first year I was here. But
There wasn't a horse hitch?
almost.
When I moved here, on one occasion, I think I had to go to the hospital, and it was in that hospital just a half a block north of where I had the Western Auto Store, just behind the drugstore is where it was. And I remember that hospital very well, and the people that worked there. And Dr. Reese that started it was the physician there. Later on, the hospital developed, And Dr. Reese had a son who became a medical doctor with him, and they built a new hospital out west of Gardner, farther west, much larger, with more facilities. But the first one in Johnson County, of all places, was here in Gardner.
Well, there's no bad thing about living in Gardner. There's no bad thing. And I've never lived anywhere else.
And I have wonderful neighbors. I enjoy the town immensely. And you just can't beat a small town where everybody's so helpful and kind, and you just like I have a neighbor, and he brings my paper over every morning, puts it on my front porch. And now that's a small town friendliness.
But the people in the town and country are wonderful, friendly. I've been happy here always.
Right now, I'm happy with Gardner and all it has to offer.